All right, guys, welcome back. Probability. We're going to go pretty quick. We're going to use both sides of the graphic organizer, which you're going to need. It's going to be graphic organizer number 4. Okay, we're going to go through all of this, but I'm going to move fast. So if you have questions, you're going to have to stop me or stop the video and go back or come and ask me. So here we go. All right, probability. What in the world is it? First thing we need to do, what's the definition? Well, the definition of probability is very simple. Probability is just not the bell. What probability is it's the measure of how likely an event is to occur. So how likely it is that something's going to happen. That's all it is. All right? For example, here we go. Today there is a 60% chance of rain. That 60% is a probability. Okay, that's how likely it's going to happen. Another example is the odds of winning the lottery are 1,000,000 to 1. That means it's probably not going to happen, but hey, we can try. Okay, that means we don't have good odds. All right, moving on. So, okay, there's basically 3 ways that we can write probabilities. So the first way that you can write a probability is as a fraction. That fraction is from 0 to 1, plain and simple. So you might have 1/8, 2/8, 1/4, 1/3, 2/3, 3/4. All of those things, if it's a regular fraction, it's between 0 and 1. Okay? All right, so fraction from 0 to 1. The second way is also a decimal from 0 to 1. So anything from 0.0 to 0.99999 is going to be between 0 and 1. Okay? So you can be a decimal. And the last way is also a percent. The percent can be anywhere from 0% to 100%. All right? Anyway, okay, you're going to see those. So 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 100%. That's how we write probabilities. Moving on. Okay? All right. Probability. And if an event is certain to happen, certain means it's definitely going to happen, it's going to happen every single time, then the probability is 1 if you write it as a fraction or a decimal. But if you write it as a percent, it's 100%. So you'll see that it's a 100% chance of rain. That means it's going to rain no matter what the whole day. Like you know it's going to happen. Okay? If an event is never going to happen, we say it's 0%. Or if you're writing it as a fraction or a decimal, it's just going to be 0. All right? And finally, if an event is just as likely to happen as to not happen, such as flipping a coin that has heads and tails, it's just as likely that you're going to get heads as your tails. So we call that 50% chance that you're going to get one of those, or 0.5, or 1/2. And you guys all know about fractions, decimals, and percents. That just means they're all the same. Okay? Let's move on. All right? So there's a probability line. All right? So if we look at it, it's basically the same thing we just talked about. If something is impossible, a fraction, percent, or decimal, it's going to be 0. Okay, if there's equal chances, it's 0.5, 50%, or 1/2. And finally, if it's certain, it's 100% or it's 1. Now, anything that's less than 50% is unlikely. Anything that's more than 50% is considered likely. That's all it is. Okay? You need that. Make sure you had it written down. All right, let's move on. So when a meteorologist states that the chance of rain is 50%, what that means is if 50%, it means it could rain or it could not, and it's equally likely either way. All right? If the chance of rain rises to 80%, then according to our probability line, it's likely to happen. And if it drops to 20, bell again. If it drops to 20%, then it's unlikely to happen according to our number line. All right? So here we go. Now, we can also figure out the probability. We're going to use this ratio, and this is the probability ratio that you need to write down. It says the probability of an event is equal to the number of ways the event can happen to the total number of outcomes. And we're going to show you that, okay? So, for example, what is the probability of getting heads when flipping a coin? Well, so we're going to write in there probability of heads. Well, how many ways on a coin can you get heads? Well, there's only 1. So the number of ways is just 1, okay? And the total outcomes are considered 2 because the coin has heads and tails. So the probability of getting heads is 1/2. And 1/2 you could also write as a decimal or a percent. It's just 1/2, okay? So that's 1. So let's start some. Here are some examples real quick. You don't have to write any of these down, okay? You just watch me. So if you look at our marbles, it looks like it says, what's the probability that I pick a green marble? So the probability of green is equal to, and we have 3 green ones, over, how many do we have total? 3, 6, 10. So the probability of getting green is 3 over 10, or you could say it's 30%, or it's 0.3. Either of those 3 answers is completely okay. All right, so instead of writing it on the right, I did that. What about this one? It says I pick a blue or a red. Well, that means I could either pick blue or red. So how many total outcomes and ways? So remember, down at the bottom, okay, I could pick red, 1, 2, and blue, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a total of 6. So the probability of blue or red, blue or red is actually 6, and how many marbles could we have picked? Oh yeah, there's a total of 10, so it's 6 out of 10, okay, which we need to simplify, so that's 3 over 5, or 0.6, or 60%, either way. All right, next one. What's the probability you pick a yellow marble? Well, there's only one of those in there, so the probability of yellow, okay, is going to be 1 over the 10 total, so the probability of yellow is 1/10, or 10%. And that's just how you're going to do it, okay? You do not have to write it all 3 ways. I'm okay with you just writing it as a fraction. If you want to change it to a decimal or percent, that's completely okay with you as well. Or with me, I don't really care. All right, so let's move on. We're just talking about probability. You're probably going to see this on NWEA. All right, so what about these ones? These are spinners. So the first one says, what is the probability that the spinner will stop on part A? Well, there's only 4 parts, and A is only one of them. So it's 1 out of the 4. So there you go. That's the probability. 1/4, 25%, or 0.25. What's the probability that the spinner will stop on an even number? So let's go over here. Even number. Well, an even number, there's only one even number. That's 2. So we have 1 out of the 3 numbers are even. So it's just 1/3, or 33%. Or 0.33. What about an odd number? Well, this one we have 2 odd numbers. So if you look at it, you have 1 and 3. That means it's 2 out of the 3 numbers are odd, which means you have a 67%, or 0.67. And finally, what is the probability that the spinner will stop in the area marked A at the bottom? Well, that one, once again, is 1 out of 3. All right, plain and simple, done. All right, you guys. You could pause the video and you could answer the 3 questions at the bottom of this graphic organizer, okay? Or you can keep going with the video and answer those at the end. Doesn't really matter. We're going to move on. Here's some examples. These ones we're going to do together. We have 5 of them. So here it goes. It says, how many pieces are there total in the spinner? Well, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So it looks like there's 7. So that's my answer to that. If you spun the spinner 1 time, what is the probability that you would land on a gray piece? Okay, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. When you see this, because you can't see very well, that one where the 6 is at is actually black. Okay, it doesn't look black, but that's black. So the gray is in number 7 and 4. So how many total do we have? 2. So there's 2 pieces that are gray. Out of how many? Well, 2 out of the 7. Okay, so 2 out of 7, that's our answer. You can change that to a fraction or a percent if you'd like, but like I said, fraction's fine. If you spun the spinner 1 time, what's the probability it's going to land on a black piece? Well, that one, we only have 1 black piece, so that's 1 out of 7. And if you spun the spinner 1 time, what's the probability you land on a white? Well, if you look at white, we actually have 4 white pieces, so 4 out of the 7. And finally, if you spun the spinner 1 time, what's the probability of landing on either a white piece or a black piece? That means the white and the black are kind of combined. We have 5 total, so that means 5 out of 7. That's all you're doing. Okay, that's the probability. Those are your examples. All right, here, you guys can try these ones. Do these 3. I'll give you about 30 seconds. Try them. Hurry up. Whatever. Try to do them. Finish them. And then you can pause the video if you're not ready, but let's get moving. Okay, I'm back. Probability you're going to land on a 3. Well, a dice has 6, so 6 total outcomes. Probability you're going to land on a 3, there's only 1 3 on it, so it's 1 out of 6. Okay, so 6 is 1/6. If you were to roll the dice 1 time, what's the probability it will not land on a 2? Well, how many numbers are not 2? Well, that's 5. And how many total numbers do you have? 6. So that one should have been 5, 6. And finally, if you were to roll the dice 1 time, what's the probability of landing on an even number? So if we looked at a dice, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as possible numbers. The even ones are 2, 4, and 6. That's 3 over 6, but it needs to be simplified to 1/2. Okay, so your answer should have been 1/2. There you go. All right, guys, end of this video. This is your extra ticket. Finish these 4 questions, show them to Mr. Williams. We'll double check to make sure they're right. You're done. Hey, you got a worksheet afterwards. I believe that worksheet is in box number 9, but hey, I'm not 100% sure. So double check Echo. See you later.